Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. We are gathered here tonight to discuss the recent and ongoing protests in Iran, which started 12 days ago in the province of Khuzestan in southwestern Iran. It started initially because of water and electricity shortages. People had their peaceful protests there, which they faced like a rough retaliation from the government and the forces, and the protests quickly escalated to anti-regime protests because the people already know what their real problem is, and it is the government and it's the mismanagement, especially in the province of Khuzestan, which is originally a very rich province in terms of natural resources, and it actually takes a great amount of mismanagement to take them to the state that they don't even have enough water to live, basically. And it's actually one of the richest province in terms of like water resources in Iran. And yeah, because of the great mismanagement of the Islamic Republic, they have come to this state, which is really unfortunate and sad. And when they ask for the basic rights of having water in that terribly hot climate, they are forced with such retaliation. This protest quickly spread to the other parts of the country, which rose up to support the people in Khuzestan, namely provinces of Esfahan, Kermanshah, Lorestan, Bushehr, Tehran, Alborz province, eastern Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, northern Khorasan, and the Ilam province, which they all obviously faced strong reaction from the government. Based on the reports that we currently have, which is like the least number of people that we currently have, because the people in Khuzestan and other parts who are actively still protesting have lost their access to internet, so we don't really have actual information from there and how many people have actually been killed there. But then, based on the latest numbers that we have, is at least a dozen people in Khuzestan province that have been killed. Many have been arrested. Many places in this province still face electricity shortages as a retaliation from the government, and being in that kind of climate and weather is just hell for them, and it's just crazy. The chants started off as I told you, as complaints on water and electricity shortages, but then moved on to very nationalistic chants and anti-regime chants. The regime really tried there to tie these protests for being supported by separatist movements, which the people of Iran, especially in province of Khuzestan and the city of Tabriz, which the regime had really advertised as these protests being, anti nationalistic and separatist movements. The chants clearly showed us a nationalistic trend that was really visible, and just ruined all of their sabotage that they were trying to do. These are the people who are not separatists. These are people who are protesting for the basic human rights, who want better life, and who want their freedom. And the regime is doing all they can. In the section about the propaganda, Sarah is going to talk more about it. But then they tried all they could to brand these protests on being separatist movements. But then the chants clearly show us that it has nothing to do with the separatist groups, and it's all about the people wanting their freedom and basically wanting their basic human rights and their right to live. With that said, I would like to pass the mic to Sarah, and she would discuss more about the propaganda that the regime is using while facing this protest in Iran. Thank you.
Thank you, Ardashir, for your words. And again, I would like to welcome everyone here. My name is Sarah, and this is, I believe, this is the 6th or 7th session of our Twitter Spaces. And for those who do not know us, we are a group of Iranian people. We are independently run these spaces, Twitter Spaces, to have direct connection with outworld, to break propaganda of the regime in Iran. And this evening, I'm going to talk about how the outlets, the Western media, are distorting the reality of the protest, the recent protest in Iran. Well, let's begin this way. The first protest started in Khuzestan, as Ardashir said. This city is supposed to be one of the wealthiest cities of Iran, because it is rich in terms of oil, it is rich in terms of water resources. It's a touristic place, but unfortunately, after the revolution in 1979, for a lot of reasons, the regime started to make this specific city, among others, try to put them in a very, very terrible situation, poverty. And one of the basically intentional mismanagement was that the regime tried to basically dried up a wetland in Khuzestan called Hur al-Azim to extract oil from them with collaboration with China. You know that the fingerprint of China is almost everywhere in this kind of situations. And this Hur al-Azim is, this wetland basically is one of the main resources in this province in terms of feeding the lands for farmers, feeding animals, the livestock, for those people who are making money with these jobs. So basically, when there is no water, there is no livestock, there is no food. So these people took out to the streets and said that you have no right to take our land, you have no right to take our water. But unfortunately, they in the outlet, in the Western media, they distort this story, this reality, into that climate change has to do with this. Basically, climate change made that wetland to dry up, which is not true. This is the purposeful and intentional mismanagement of the regime in Iran. And then soon it started and spread all over the country. In most of the cities, some even big cities started to uprising. And then again, those agents, the regime agents, who are infiltrated into different organizations like human rights organizations in the Western countries in general, or in the media, they try to formulate that this uprising is funded by Mossad in Israel or by MEK, one of the notorious so-called opposition, which they are not opposition, but they tell that they are opposition to the regime. They called MEK. They try to tie this protest to MEK, to Mossad, or even the US. But at the right moment, those people in those cities who were uprising, they by some nationalistic chants and slogans try to break this, because also the regime, as Ardashir said, try to tie it up with separatists, which is not true. Another thing is that, for example, one of the agents of the regime, there is no proof or evidence, concrete proof, that this person is tied up with the regime, but the way she acts, the way she speaks, the way she distort the story, is that, for example, her name is Elahe Hicks. Elahe Hicks. She's American right now, like American Iranian, and she's working for some organization, and previously even worked for human rights organizations. And she said that this uprising is tied up with the MEK, that organization I earlier speak about it. And she even said that the Mossad and MEK try to give them guns to basically turn the uprising into violence, which is not true. If people had access, if the majority of people had access to the gun, the situation was far different from right now. I would like to invite whoever wants to add more comments or correct me, or anything have to say, please raise your hand or request for microphone to speak about the situation. And also I would like, if Milk Tea Alliance wants to share some experiences with us or whatever they heard about it, we would like to hear from you. I see that Kurosh has the microphone. I welcome you, Kurosh. This is the first time you are with us. We welcome you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and appreciate for all the freedom fighters. Okay, so regarding Hurul Azim, and regarding the devastation, the environmental devastation in Iran, I have a few comments. First of all, Iran, it's historically, it's a country that it's a dry land. It's not like Malaysia or other tropical countries. So that's its nature. And throughout different generations and different monarchies, somehow they manage this. And specifically, when I'm speaking of monarchy, I go Hakhamaneshian, when they use artesian well, and actually they were inventor of that. So somehow they found a natural way to use the current resource of a water resource in our land, in our plateau of Iran. So this has been going on for generations until the new era comes. The new era comes when the technology just kick in. After 20th century, now we have a new development, a new way to reach out for agriculture and so forth. So then there was this new movement in Iran that we need to be self-sufficient when it comes to agriculture. We need to self-sufficient with our livestock and the seeds and everything that a country needs for feeding their people. So that movement was under during the Shah era. during last regime, they were under investigation, and the scientists work on it, and they found out, no, we cannot do that. We better buy, produce rather than agriculture in our country. If this is the technology we have, if we need to use direct source from our water resource. So that was off the picture. And then revolution happened. And then all of a sudden, this movement of self-sufficient and self-reliance will kick in. And now everybody trying to just do agriculture, all part of Iran agriculture. So a lot of kind of promoting agriculture and helping agriculture in a very non-scientific and non-scientific way, basically. They will promote it, and it was implemented. And throughout these 40 years of this wrongdoing, this is the result. This is not the result of a year or 2 years. Now, specifically regarding Hur al-Azim, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different story. Hur al-Azim is an area that they found a huge source of oil for the last 2 years or 3 years. And then they just since all the mullahs, they just looking at Iran as a treasure box rather than as a country with its people. They're looking at the treasure, and they just to get as much as treasure possible out, and basically they are kind of stealing everything. So they were thinking of, okay, how we can use this resource of oil that we found. So they put it on basically on a different oil company, consulting different oil companies, and Japanese came along, and Japanese claimed that we can provide this oil for you, just like the way we do it in the sea level. And this would not affect your environment, but it's going to cost you this much. And then Chinese came along, and the Chinese said, no, this is very expensive. We're going to do it like very efficient, and you're gonna love it, but it's going to affect your environment a little bit. And National Security Council of Iran, which Rouhani was part of it and everything, they knew about that. They knowingly they accept that, and then they accept Chinese versus Japanese because of the cost and everything. So this was premeditated. This disaster, it's not just like, well, we don't know what happened, who did it. They know exactly how it happened, and there are certain people responsible for it. And now people of Khuzestan, they facing this trauma that this is not going anywhere. This is not going to be fixed. There's no reverse process for that. The land is de-leveled, as it says in geology, and then the catastrophe was ongoing. So it is a catastrophical situation that needs immediate attention, and obviously this regime doesn't have any concern of that. They're just looking at the other source to steal and kind of do whatever objective they have for their global Islam or whatever hell they want. And so that's a concern. This is a catastrophe. It is a catastrophe. This is not something that is going away. So obviously the outrage, the protest of people of Khuzestan will not go away, and it will go on because they cannot fix the situation. And that's my comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Koresh. Thank you very much. Actually, you completed what I said about Khuzestan and Hur al-Azim. And I have to mention that Hur al-Azim, this specific wetland, is not the only one, is not the only victim of the disaster. They did it to also Urmia Lake in a northwestern Iran. and that lake is already gone, and it affected the ecosystem a lot. And there are many more examples we can tell, but it's gonna be boresome. uh, in terms of ecosystem, they completely ruined Iran. Not to mention, they don't even have mercy to animals. And it's just because of their ideology. For their ideology of being independent from the whole world, from the entire world, produce everything on their own, have everything on their own. We don't need anybody. Just because of this ideology, they are ruining environment. Because of this ideology, they are killing dogs and pets. Basically, whoever have a pet, they just either kill or they take the pets from them, the dogs from the owner, just because of this ideology. Let alone what they do to their own people, the Iranian people. This is an act of war. They claim the war against Iranians. This is a war between Iranians and the regime in Iran for over 40 years, just right after the revolution. Uh, I see that Kati Askari having a microphone. She's from Canada. She's Iranian as well. I would like to welcome her, and floor is yours, Kati.
Thank you very much for the time. You have almost covered a lot of good points so far. What I want to add is that the cause for the recent uprising and protests might have been initially the water crisis and lack of electricity, but one main problem in Iran is that the response to any protest and gathering is bullets. Obviously, when people's natural demand for their most natural rights is bullets, prison, detention, torture, etc., then the whole thing cannot be understated to a water crisis in Iran. So it's better to say we are dealing with a regime who easily and shamelessly violates the most basic human rights, and that is the main cause of all problems that we have in Iran. We have been proved that people's rights, people's needs, people's the very, very basic human needs is not on the regime's agenda. And that's why after 43 years, we see economical issues, cultural issues, like political issues. As Iranians living in Iran, we think all the world is our enemy. Once we go out of Iran, we see other nations are living peacefully and they are not dealing with the idea of enemies like the way people in Iran do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, it's true. And I would like to say that when people take on the street, in the protest, the slogans they said has nothing to do with water, has nothing to do with electricity, has nothing to do with corona or anything else. Whenever they come to the street, they only said death to dictator, death to Khamenei, and death to the Islamic Republic. What does it mean? It means that we don't want you anymore. We want you out. But the Western media, they said that this is a water protest. Why? Why they are distorting the reality? Why they are formulated in this way? Gongashta, I would like to welcome you, and floor is yours.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for creating this space. Everybody made good points, and I agree with all of that. But one of the things that I think we should talk about when we're talking about the protest is, I know we've talked about this before, but it's very important, and it's leadership. not only leadership in the protests, but leadership in general against Islamic Republic. We do have leaders, we all know them, but unfortunately, I think they are not proactive leaders. They do not take the control. And I think that is one of the most important issues that we have right now against the Islamic Republic, because let's remember, the answer to every protest in Iran has been bullets. The Iranian regime, the Islamic regime, has had 43 years to fix all the issues that everybody just mentioned here. They haven't, because they don't care. They don't care about Iran. They don't care about Iranians. All dictators are like that, but especially dictators and totalitarian regimes that are Islamic are even worse, because their God lets them do whatever they want. It's in the name of God. In the name of God, they can kill. In the name of God, they can torture. In the name of God, they can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter if it's a human being. It doesn't matter if it's a land. Look at our history. In the history, we had Mongols attacking Iran. What did they do after a few years? They hired prime ministers, Iranian prime ministers, to do the job for them. We had Arabs attacking Iran. What happened? We recovered. What I'm trying to say is that Islamic Republic is a combination of all those attacks. And it's not only attacking people, it's not attacking the mentality of Iranians, it's attacking the physics of Iranians, the body of Iranians, and it's attacking the land of Iran, because they don't care. The only strategy that I think the regime has is how to stay in power for a few more years. However that's possible, if it's killing people, let's do that. We're going to stay in power for a few more years. And then in a few more years, we're going to see what we can do. And then we have to look at the strategy of the United States and West towards Middle East. It seems it's changing. It seems that they are not interested in the Middle East anymore. Look at what the Biden administration is doing in Afghanistan right now. After 20 years of war, they're just leaving it like that. They're just giving the floor to Taliban. And who's supporting Taliban? Directly, in sunlight, it's the Islamic Republic. There are pictures, there are videos. And then at the west side in Iraq is the same thing. And we, the people, we, the nations, we all want the same thing. We want this regime gone. The Iranians, the Iraqis, the Syrians, the Yemenis, even I think the Afghani people, they don't want the Islamic regime in Iran in power. And let's see, the Islamic Republic has had crimes against humanity as it is actually defined in international law. The Islamic Republic has committed the act of genocide in the past 43 years. And all West did was stay silent, or just condemn them lightly, or just condemn them in letters. And that's all they did. Then some administrations came and they did some sanctions only because it benefited them first, and then to stop the Iranian regime. What I'm trying to say is that the overthrowing of the Islamic regime is not at the priority list of the West anymore, if it ever was. It doesn't mean we're all alone. Maybe, but we're not stopping. Does it mean I'm stopping? No, I don't think anybody here who's working, who's doing anything they can for freedom is gonna stop with this. We are going to be more powerful. We are going to overthrow this regime. This is the history happening. Unfortunately, my problem is that how many times do we have to repeat the history? How many times do we have to give generations of people to dictators like that? Because all of us, all of Iranians who are actually here right now, we've all had bruises from the Islamic regime. We've had to leave our country. We've had to stay silent. We've had to live under threat of the Islamic Republic, even outside of Iran. The West has done nothing yet. And by West, especially, I mean America, because United States is ignoring these protests completely, just condemning them lightly. And I want to remind you to what happened to Masih Alinejad a few weeks before. Again, the Biden administration is silent on that. They have talked with her, but actions, no actions. We don't see any reasons. We don't see any action. We don't see any results. And that's very concerning. I think that the international law has been staying in the 19th and 20th century, because what Islamic Republic is doing right now to the Iranians in Iran is not only, as I said, crimes against humanity and genocide, it's crimes against land. And we don't have that term in the international law. They are destroying Iran. Not only Iran, because if Iran is destroyed, if the ecological system of the Iran is destroyed, the whole region will be destroyed. It's not only about the drought in Iran or a city in Iran. It's about the drought in the whole region, because remember, Iran has had many rivers, especially in Khuzestan, and they've changed the course of those rivers. And those rivers also help Iraqi people. And it also helps other provinces of Iran. So to sum it up, we will continue our fight, whether we have West on our side or we don't. I hope they wake up. I hope they understand that their way is not the correct way. I hope whoever is here can say that to their friends, to their family, to their co-workers. If they have more power than a normal person like me, please, please, please use that power to tell them, to hold them accountable. Sarah mentioned Alaha Hicks. She's not the only one. The regime in the past 20, 25 years has tried this. They have sent people, maybe directly, maybe indirectly, but they have educated people to go to international human rights organizations and show a good face, but actually trying to undermine whatever the Islamic regime is doing, trying to show, this is normal. Remember Ladan Tabatabai, who is actually Aryan Tabatabai, who is actually working in Baghdad administration right now. She is actually working with the envoy of United States on Vienna talks with the Islamic regime right now. And do you remember what she said? She said protests were ongoing in Iran for the past 43 years. This is a normal part of Iran. No, it's not. Please understand, this is not normal. People are not, we're not joyful people, so we can come to the streets and protest against the Islamic regime just because we want to. Nobody, I don't think that even makes any sense, because when you don't have water, when you don't have electricity, when you don't have employment, you have nothing. Interestingly enough, in the past 24 hours, I didn't have access to internet, and I was dying. I literally was dying because I didn't know what was going on in Iran. I didn't know what was going on in the world. I didn't know who was doing what. Let's face it, we are addicted to internet, and it's not such a bad thing, because that's how we can get connected with Iranians inside Iran. But I didn't have the internet for 24 hours, and it was so hard. It was a torture. So the only thing that I was thinking about was, how do Iranians are living in Iran right now? They don't have access to internet because the regime has cut down the internet. They don't have access to water. They don't have access to power. Just imagine living like that in the 21st century. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to me. And if I'm not here the whole way, I'm really, really sorry. I have to go to work, but I can tell you this. Even at my workplace, I talk to people about what's going on in my country. I talk to people about what's going on under the Islamic regime. I try to tell people what's going on, even if they are my coworkers, even if they are people who are normal people and don't know anything about politics in the Middle East. I'm trying to teach them. I'm trying to tell them that we are all humans, and they are listening. They're actually listening, and I want you to do the same, please. If you go to work, if you live outside of Iran and you have coworkers, talk to them. Let them know what's really going on in Iran. Let them know that the narrative that the West has right now, or the narrative that the Islamic Republic is forcing on the West right now and they are accepting, is wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gomgashta. You made very good points. Well, the reality with the Western governments is that although they would claim that they treasure human rights and the democratic values, but in reality they do that, but then for their own people. But then, for example, if it is a country like Iran or any other country that is under a dictatorship, as long as that country has, I mean, economic benefits for them, and they can have contracts, agreements, which again would help their own country and benefits their own people. Well, yes, please go on. I mean, yes, we are gonna condemn it here and there. We're gonna, I mean, have announcements here and there, but then in reality, they don't do anything concrete to stop that. And this is exactly what is happening with Iran. Iran is a country with enormous amount of resources. I mean, you can just name it. I mean, yeah, it's take it from oil or metals or gas, everything is just available there. And it is actually quite good for, I mean, any other country to just, I mean, you could say pillage it. So that's why they don't really care about that. And another point that contributes to this is that they get advised by people. I mean, as you mentioned with Tabatabai in the US, they get advised that, okay, if this regime goes, especially for Europe, if this regime goes, then you're going to have a huge wave of migrations that, I mean, millions and millions that, you know, Europe just can't sustain. And which isn't actually true. I mean, they paint this picture that it's either this regime or you're going to have another Syria, which is like they're trying to like scare them like that. But then the actual truth is the path that they are taking Iran into, the environmental disaster that's happening there, it's exactly what that is going to cause this huge wave of migrations, because it's going to get to the point that people just can't live there. I mean, take a look at Khuzestan right now. It's so rich in terms of water. I mean, so many rivers, but then they've put it to the state that people come to the streets and ask for like water to just barely live, to have like minimum living conditions. So that is actually the reasons why they are not very eager for this regime to go. And this is just very tragic. And this again shows that for us Iranians, we should not we should like lean on anyone but ourselves, and we should be on our own feet to overthrow this government. We shouldn't expect them to help us, because it doesn't benefit them to help us. It benefits them, the current situation, like the way the state it currently is. I mean, yes, they do condemn this and that, but then, I mean, in reality, they don't really care. So it is up to us Iranians, and yeah, we will continue the fight. We have Nima on the floor now. I would like to pass the mic to him and listen to what he has to say. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for letting me to speak. I heard everyone, and it was clear points from every aspect. Now I just want to mention something from the human rights aspects, what's going on in Iran. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And in Iran, we have gender apartheid. Women are not equal to, and not treated equal to men. From the several laws, including the inheritance, including the marriage, or divorce right, or whatsoever, women are not treated as equal. Let's go to the article number 2. And in the article number 2, it reads, everyone is entitled to all rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, in language, religion, political, or other opinion. Just consider that gay people, or let us say LGBT people are having are in danger, and sometimes even they are being executed, as well as the fact that Baha'is are not treated well in Iran. There are a restriction against them. Even they don't have the right to educate in universities. When it comes to the freedom or the article number 19 and 20, just bear with me to find them a few seconds. Yeah. Everyone has the right of, this is Article 18, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, such conscience and religions. Many of the people of this Sunnis and other people are now in jail for their thoughts and religion. Article number 19. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. These rights include freedom to hold opinion without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas. Also, it is allowing people to, everyone has the right to freedom of peacefully assembly and association. No one may be compelled to belong to an association. So, in general, people are being executed for their thoughts, their what they have written on their blogs. Arabi was first sentenced to death, and now for blasphemy, and also right now we have two other people with the sentence of the execution for the same thing, insulting the Prophet Muhammad or whatsoever. In general, the situation in Iran is very bad. Nobody has a right to express themselves and to fight for their right. What is happening in Iran is we had this November 2019 massacre, but also we had in 1980s thousands of Iranians were executed, and as well as recently this uprising in Iran, so far we have 8 people dead. And whenever it's going to a long period of time, they start shutting down the internet, which is a sign of a disaster might happen, and we don't know what's going on inside Iran. There is only one country among the Western country, which is Canada, that considers Iran's regime carried out crime against humanity in 1987, and as well as they consider IRGC a terrorist organization. So what we have to do, and we want help from everyone to let us, we don't believe, at least I don't believe any government outside of Iran would willingly support Iranian case unless we put pressure on them, and we have hand in hand together. The situation in Middle East is far beyond imagination, wars, criminals. So we have to get united hand in hand together to make even Western country to understand enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Nima. I just want to add a comment here. In terms of spreading propaganda through the Western media or even internal propaganda for those minorities in Iran who are supporting the regime, I would say they play very nasty here. Out there in the Western media, I just told you just a little bit of what they do to brainwash people, to give them disinformation, and to push their agenda with the European or the American administrations. And we Iranian people cannot forget these days. We cannot forget that we shout a lot. We didn't have enough voice, but just with social media, we screamed. We are screaming, but basically no one hears us. Just a very few politicians around the world are hearing the true voice of us and believed us. Otherwise, the rest, they are only think about their own interest, and we are traumatized by these double standards, by these actions. We cannot forget, and we cannot forgive them. Iran will be free one day, sooner or later. But whatever they left behind, the Western countries, whatever they left behind, then they will face the consequence. I don't want to be rude, or I don't want to be mean here, or I don't want to say something bad, but these are all the screams, and these are all the traumas that we are dragging with us for our entire lives. I don't know how we can break this propaganda, how we can break this wall, how we can make those people wake up and stop only think about themselves. At the very least, if they don't want to help us, just sit back, do nothing. Let us do whatever it takes to take them down. And here I would like to ask a question from Milk Tea Alliance, if they would like to answer. I know that also in your countries, you are facing with this kind of protest, with this kind of propaganda, with this kind of abnormality within the administrations. I would like to hear if you have any experience that you would like to share with us in terms of civil disobedience, in terms of how to fight propaganda, how to connect with the West in terms of helping us. If you would like to answer this question, just request for a microphone and come up on the floor. Otherwise, if anybody else would like to speak, please raise your hand, or the other people that are already on the stage can have the microphone.
I saw earlier that Kurosh rose his hand, so if you still want to make a point, please go on.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. Of course, I'd like to hear more about other people's opinion rather than me talking. But some folks make a great point, and I would like to kind of point out, bold those points in the right direction. Of course, in my point of view. We talk about foreign countries, specifically liberal world, where they have the technology and the money. And the question is why they are supporting this system, this dictatorship, and why they're not looking at the bright prospect when Iran be free and lead by their own people, not a bunch of savages that they only think of their own ideology. Why they don't picture that and proceed that? Why they don't do that? I mean, are they stupid? What is it? Because obviously they are not stupid. They have intentions. Now, the answer of that to me is very clear. The answer of that is a lack of authority. It means the point that another speaker was talking about, that the leadership is lacking. It means not the leadership of specifically one person, necessity, specific person that we know, the leadership of anyone that it's affect their own people. They have organization, they have constitution, and they are have vision, and they have tactics. So this coalition called opposition. Well, not necessarily in the form of a party, but could be opposition committee. So this coalition has not been, within this last 40 years, has not been established. Has not. I mean, there are contenders, but they are not opposition. They're more like a cult. They're just advertising their own rather than, their issues. So basically, right now, we do have uprisings in Iran. So the Western world, they see that Ahvaz, Tehran, they see that. They're not blind. But these are uprisings. There is a difference between uprising and movement. Uprising, it's simultaneously. Uprising, it's no plan for that. It's just people just burst out. That would not lead to anything. That could lead to chaos. It could. I mean, in a sociology point of view, I'm talking not specifically about Iran. But movement, the forces, all the potentials are directed in a certain way for the certain goals and with certain technique and tactics. So this needs leadership. So all these uprisings potentially could turn to a movement, meaningful, with goal and with purpose. But until there is lack of authority and lack of that solidarity of opposition, this may not go where it's supposed to go. Another person mentioned that Iran will be free eventually. Well, that's a wishful thinking. I would like that too. I would like you, Iran will be free. But I'm put my foot on the land of reality. I'm just looking what I see. And what I see is, if this is going the way it's going, that means the regime is just brutally create catastrophe after catastrophe throughout the nation. And this will continue for the next, let's say, 5 years, not far future, just for 5-6 years. We would have a catastrophe or collapse of our civilization. I'm not talking about regime will collapse itself too. Regime will collapse within itself because of all the issues that it has in managing this situation. It will collapse, but it will collapse the civilization of Iran. I refer you to a book called The Collapse, Uprise and Downfall of Civilization by George Diamond. This is a scientific social review throughout the history, how the civilization disappeared in face of the earth. In 2006, this is a recent book. So there are 5 elements that cause collapsing civilizations. I don't want to go to the details of the book and critic the book, but I just vaguely mention that, such as political, such as environmental, such as ideological, such as cultural. All these, 1 or 2 of these elements is good enough that civilization collapse. Iran will endure all 5 elements. So the falling off of civilization in Iran almost imminent. That could happen sooner or later, if and only if the system will continue what they're doing right now. Now, the question is how we can stop it. That's the question. Like, how we can stop this process. Can we stop it? Of course we can. with people, with solidarity of people and coalition with the decent opposition committee that wants to remove this regime and founded a democratical, secular system. If that happened before regime fall apart and diminish by itself, because this regime will diminish by itself, it cannot maintain itself. It will run out of resource. It will fall off. But before that, if we do that, we definitely can free Iran and free people, and then people have an opportunity, have a system that layer by layer we put bandage on these wounds. The problem of water of Iran cannot resolve after moving a regime tomorrow. No, these are layers of layers. Look at the American democracy. When American democracy happened, they said all men are legal, all men are equal. But at the same time, they didn't give votes, they didn't give right to vote for women, and they didn't consider black as part of the equality. But the democracy just find itself, this role of democracy find itself, and yet 100 years after that, Susan Anthony and Catherine Clark made that happen, and now women can have a right to vote as well. So we're not accepting democracy as a button that we press it and everything goes excellent. This is bogus. But it's a mechanism. It's a mechanism that people get involved and people start restoring the problems and restoring this, resolving the problems and restoring all the issues that country has been suffering. So this is very important that we understand our position, why foreign countries are not supporting, and why what is our weaknesses, and what we should demand are people that he claim and has a position and has a potential to be the leader and hold the flag of overthrown submersion of the system, to hold the flag and move on. And I can assure you, when they are strong, when they are faithful, when they believe in their people, people will follow them. But until then, we just have to work on this. Thank you very
much. Thank you very much, Gourosh, on the points you made. I would like to welcome Milk Alliance and Shahil on the stage. I would like to give the floor to Milk Alliance, and then we will move on with Shahil later. Milk Alliance, please.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think someone actually asked us about our experience with the civil disobedience movement here in Myanmar. After listening to you guys talk here, I can relate to you guys a lot because the experiences are very similar, and the incidences that we're going through are very similar because the military dictators, they've also been ruling us nearly 7 decades, and we've had a lot of revolutions and uprisings over those 7 decades. The large ones were in like 1962, 1988, 2007, and now in 2021. They hold, of course, Myanmar is also very rich in resources, so I can really relate to that. They hold all the resources in Myanmar. They have in control of everything. Although we are very rich in resources, our people are very poor, and the military people are the only rich ones here in our country. So, and then last 10 years ago, they actually reopened. We can say they end their dictatorship, but it is not. They try to make a fake reform about the democracy, and then we were allowed to start voting. The first 5 years, they gave president position to their military people. And then only after the last 5 years, the Aung San Suu Kyi government was elected. And that was when the Western companies come flooding in to Myanmar. And that was when the military and their cronies, they make links to the Western companies, like major conglomerates, like big oil companies and stuff like that. So right now, the first day that we heard they staged a military coup in February 1st, I think following 2 to 3 days, we were in shock, and the doctors were the one who started this movement because they know how shitty is this whole thing is, because we've already been in that position and we've tasted like a little bit of democracy in the last 10 years, so we don't want to go back to the past. So they started initiating the civil disobedience movement. Of course, we also had peaceful protests. A lot of peaceful protests are still going on. Like it has turned into flash mobs because, similar to Iran, the military cracked down on the protesters with bullets instead. They do not want to meet our demands, so of course they cracked down. They were shooting the protesters in the head, but of course we persist with the peaceful protest. But then I don't know. I think this is just my opinion though. When peaceful protest is met with bullets instead of considering for the demands of the people, I think the only way to overturn a totalitarian government like this is armed revolution. So this is why we eventually turned into our people actually grouped into like People's Defense Force, PDFs, and then there are also ethnic arms organizations who have been fighting this Burmese militaries for the 7 decades because apparently they are racist, and in the name of race, language, and religion, they crack down on any other. They declare war on any other ethnic groups and minorities. So our people, they go into the forest and then they go training with the ethnic armed organizations while the civil disobedience movement is still ongoing. Some of them has returned because, of course, they were threatened by the military, but the doctors are still persisting. A lot of people are told not to pay taxes, electric bills, water bills, and stuff like that. The people are still persisting, but we're also in chaos these days because, as you can see, they don't plan to back down. They will continue to crack down on our protesters. Even today, protests in Mandalay were cracked down with bullets once again. Of course, the West just condemned and they imposed some sanctions, but they're not effective. The effective sanctions should be on big oils, but the big oils also lobbied to their governments. So I don't think the West really planned to take effective actions against the military. So I don't know. I also feel the same way with ASEAN. They're also in our way to toppling the junta because ASEAN is like they're giving how do I say, they're like providing legitimacy to the junta, like, and then delaying all the time for him. So the same way we feel about ASEAN is that if you don't want to help, just sit down and we'll just do this shit on our own. So I think I can relate to Iran a lot, but all of this time in my mind, I just go, okay, if peaceful protests are met with bullets, maybe an armed revolution is the only way. I think so. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Milk Tea. I see that we have the same situations in many aspects. Well, I would say dictators copy from the same book. I see that Mr. Al Shahil is with us. He's the first time that
Yes,
join us our spaces.
I'm
I welcome you, and floor is yours.
I'm gonna talk about what Iran did to my country in the past years. Uh, Iran made big uh, problems to us, including in the pilgrimage that is sacred in our religion, the Islam. It's considered the fifth pillar of it, and we and I, for instance, do not like Iran attitude with us because it just uh, destroy all of you, and I'll destroy myself and the last. That's no way to. I think this is no way to live with anyone. Even if I was to say that, I'll be a terrorist in my opinion. Uh, they came as pilgrimage, but they were what you call it, CIA intelligent Iranian people, and then they put the what you call it, they put the poisonous gas and and try to destroy everything that is sacred or even good in the country. They destroyed everything. They want to kill the what you call it, the policeman, they killed the many policemen in our country and dictated that they will fight us in every corner that is available for them, and so on and so forth. They made a lot of problems in Saudi Arabia exactly to make it clear. I hate the Iranian regime. I hope it's gone by the end of the day. But that's all hopes. I can't destroy a person without a plan and a plan B, and if it fails, a plan C, perhaps. That's what I'm saying. Iranian people are very kind. I know that, but Iranian regime, those are so much trouble to us. Made a lot of trouble to us, not just by killing officers. They killed a lot of policemen. Policemen just to direct the people to go to Hajj, to do Hajj the good way, and they kill them. Why? Because if you ask me, those are some sick people. They are not responsible of their actions. They are maybe drunk or on weed or something that is I don't know how to explain it. And thank you, Sarah, for the time you gave me.
Yep, sorry. Thank you, Shahil. I'm actually glad that you, in the end, distinguished between the people of Iran and the Islamic Republic regime.
Yes.
Because yes, well, as you know, I mean, the people in Iran, as you can currently also follow the news, they also have nothing in common with this regime, and I I'm pretty sure the whole region is looking forward for this regime to be toppled. And in terms of Saudi Arabia and Iran, if you even look back to the history before this regime at the time of our Shah, before the revolution, we had actually quite good relationships with Saudi Arabia. So it is really important for, the problem with the current regime is in many of the countries in the region, this regime has made the people of the other countries in the region to think that this is what Iran is, and to create conflicts. But then, which in fact is there is a line that you must distinguish. Okay, the people of Iran are actually not wanting this regime either. So, and as you can see with the current protests, they are actually trying, and they have been trying in the past 42 years to get rid of them. And hopefully one day we will succeed, and I'm sure that would be great for the region as well, and it could bring peace and prosperity to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, but then thank you.
I would like just to add something to your words, Ardashir. Mr. Shahil, I'm so sorry to hear that, first of all. I totally can understand what this regime is doing for many countries around Middle East, in North Africa, in Afghanistan, all the way to Latin America. I am completely aware of it. And basically, this regime is not the only is not a threat only to Iranians. It's also a threat to millions of people around the world. No one is safe. No one is safe, and I can understand it. So I would like to invite you, your compatriot, to support us. How? The very least you can do is that be our voice on social media, especially in the time that the internet is down. For example, these days that the internet is down and they don't let videos, they don't let voices come out. Even we don't have many information what is happening right now as we speak in Iran. So the very least you can do is that be our voice. Help us for the sake of peace in the Middle East, in the North Africa, in Latin America. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone here joining us and listen to us with patience. And if anybody else would like to add comment, okay, I see that Gomgashte raising hand. Gomgashte, you can wrap up your remarks in 1 or 2 minutes, so we can close the session. Floor is yours, Gomgashte.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to give you an update. Right now, as we are speaking, literally, protests has started again in different cities of Iran. As everybody else said, we do need your support. Everybody who's not Iranian, we really need your support. Mr. Shahil, thank you for being here. I have gone to other different Arabic groups. What I suggest and what I would like from people like you, Arab speaking people, is that please talk to your people, talk to your governments about what Islamic regime is doing, because all of us have the same enemy. We can live in peace, we can live in prosperity, we are friends. It doesn't matter if we are Kurd, Turk, Arab, Fars, it doesn't matter. We are all human. And our enemy is the Islamic Republic. So please be a voice, not for Iranian people, but for the sake of your own people and your own country, because Islamic Republic will not stop. Islamic Republic will only get worse from this here. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much, everybody.
I understand, Kamshta. Kamakishta. I understand.
Thank you. We have Military Alliance Iran joining us as well, and I also see Kurosh raising his hand. So I would like to ask Multi Alliance Iran to share their remarks with us, and then we'll move on with Kurosh. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you. Do you have my voice?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. I just wanted to add a point at the final minutes of this space. I want to talk about how do we find a journalist in social media. Sometimes we see we cannot contact top journalists because some of them don't introduce any way to contact. That doesn't mean we have to give up. We can contact lower ranked journalists, right? They have their own followers and can spread our voice. When you find a journalist, people write his or her name somewhere to search for the way to contact. All right. There are a lot of news agencies and media. We can find a way to contact them via their website, email address, and other ways. By mentioning them in our tweets, sending a message, and so on. So many journalists who work for a news agency can help us if we find a way to contact them. So we can try. I just want to repeat this. We can try lower ranked journalists instead of top ranked journalists. Right? That was all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was actually a very good point, and yeah, we need to implement that. Kurosh, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think my understanding is the session will be about to be open. That's why, as a wrap up, I want to add some comment. First of all, that there are people that they are outside Iran, that they are not Iranian, but they're very concerned about Iran's situation because Iran's situation can conflict and affect their situation as well, and that's a very good concern. So in that regard, I only have one solution for that, and that is the people of Iran. And the people of Iran, each individual people of Iran, whether they're inside Iran, they're outside Iran, they have their own potential, and they have to use their common sense. What is it called in Farsi? Aql salim. We need to use that in a way that we create coalition, we create union, and we bring people together in the same goal. And the goal is moving on from this dictator regime and implement and found a system that is based on democratical, secular regime. Now, whatever form of the regime is, that's not my specific concern at all. Whether it's a monarchy or a constitution or a republic or whatever, this is not my concern. My concern is the mechanism and the form of foundation of the regime, which is democracy and secularism, where is people decide for their own destiny, and this is the only way out. And otherwise, if people will not commit, if the elite and if the concerned people, the patriots, they don't commit to unify, this country will be ravished by these dictators, and they are not Iranian. They may have a passport of Iranian, but they don't believe in any Iranian nation or Iran as a nation. So this is my concern, and I'm doing my very best as an Iranian person, and I'm advocating to every Iranian to have a union with us and move for the same goal and same objectives. I really appreciate for the session, and it was a very, very rich and very good session with a good question that it has, and I want you to continue these sessions, and we create more challenges and more people in that endeavor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kurosh. I would like to.
Would you like me to invite a journalist person to the space?
It would be great. Yes, we could actually arrange another space session, and yeah, it would actually be a great thing.
Okay.
We could arrange that. You could send me a message in the direct, and then yeah, we could arrange it another date for a space session with journalists. That would be actually a huge help. Yeah. yeah, even if one or two journalists or even more, I mean, we appreciate any help in that manner. Yep. All right. I would like to thank everyone for being with us tonight and for contributing to this session. I would like to add that this session has been recorded and it will be uploaded on YouTube and it will be sent to international news outlets. And yeah, I would like to wish you all a very good evening or morning in wherever the part of the globe you are. And yeah, see you next time. Thank you.
And I hope the Iranian regime will fall soon. That's what I
Yeah,
hope.
yeah, that's what we all hope for.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank
Goodbye.
you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Have a good day and night, everyone.